So not too long ago, I received this message. And I gotta say, this is not the first time I've received something like this. People send them to me all the time and they say, hey, Mark, I want to practice, I want to get better, I want to train, but no one wants to do it with me. What am I supposed to do? I empathize with that situation because I live in a small town and there's not always people around here who want to go out and want to practice. So we've kind of got something in common here. So I think that there's a few different solutions to this problem. But before we can get to those solutions, we need to understand what's behind the kind of attitude of like, I don't want to go out and practice. We better understand that mentality first if we hope to overcome it. So one of the reasons people sometimes feel like they don't want to practice is they don't really see the point to practicing. They might be perfectly happy with where they are when it comes to pickleball play. They might think they're as good as they want to be or that they need to be. They might be a big fish in a small pond, or they might not be a big fish at all, but they're just sort of happy with their level. They're not really motivated to get that much better. They don't really see the point to putting in the effort and putting in the time and putting in the energy to going out and practicing. So that's something to keep in mind, is that people don't always see the point of practicing. And if they don't see the point of something, they're not really going to make time for it. Speaking of time, you might live in a place where there isn't time allocated to practicing. It may be the situation where there's a small number of courts and that court time is used for play, and that could be organized play or it could be drop-in play or rec play or whatever. And in situations like that, it's going to be difficult to go out and to just practice, because what's going to happen is other people will see you practicing, just you and this other person, want to come and join you. They're going to think that you would rather be playing a game instead of whatever it is that you're doing, and that they are going to be there to save the day. So if you're in a place that doesn't allocate time to practicing and doesn't really have enough supply of courts that you can just go out and practice whenever you want, well, you're going to have a bit of a problem. A third reason that someone might not be interested in practicing is that they think it's not going to be very fun. Remember, pickleball is a game and games should be fun. That's why people are playing for the most part. And for one reason or another, people might have it in their head that there's this idea that if you go out and you practice, well, practice is work and work's not fun. And I want to have fun, and I'm not going to get as many units of fun if I'm out there practicing my drop or practicing my drive, working on my volleys or my overhead or my movement. That sounds hard. That doesn't sound very fun. And again, if I'm playing pickleball and pickleball's a game and games are supposed to be fun, then going out and practicing, if it's not fun, is going to be kind of antithetical to why I'm doing this in the first place. Right? And finally, a fourth reason why people might not be interested in practicing is they might not actually know what to do. They might not know how to practice. There's a good chance that their only involvement in pickleball so far has been out there playing games, whether it's in tournaments or rec games or whatever it might be. But if you've only ever played games when you've gone out to play pickleball, you don't really know what you can do to practice necessarily. And this is even more so the case when someone doesn't have a really extensive background in sports, because most other sports, especially if you do them at a competitive level, involve not just playing the sport, but training for the sport as well. And so there's a lot of people who come from strong athletic backgrounds who can kind of introduce those concepts, those ideas related to training, not always playing games, but one of the beauties of pickleball is it's relatively easy to start playing, but the other side of that coin is that means we have a lot of people in the sport who don't necessarily have that background in other sports that they can draw from. So in many cases, people don't practice because they don't really know what practice looks like. So now that we've talked about some of the reasons why people might be reluctant to practice, let's talk about the things that you can do to maybe change things. The first problem I identified was that people don't always see the point of going out to practice. So what's the solution? Well, you need to make them see the point, or rather, you need to make them see a point to practicing. Look, there's lots of different reasons that people might practice. And sure, the obvious one is to go out and to get better. And that's fine. But if someone isn't really interested in getting better, that's not going to be a very effective way of selling them on the idea that they should go out and practice. So what are some other reasons to practice? Well, one of them is that it's a really great workout. So you might say to your friend who doesn't really care about getting better at pickleball, you might say, hey, want to come and get a great workout with me? Let's go out and do this together. Let's go get a great workout. We're going to hit so many more balls in half an hour of practicing than we would in half an hour of playing a game. It's going to be a great workout. You can run me around as much as you want. I'll run you around as much as you want. It's going to be great. Right? And so for some people who are motivated by fitness, then all of a sudden practice isn't just about getting better at pickleball, but it's actually about getting healthier, getting more fit. And a lot of people are motivated by that. Okay, so we have getting better as a motivation, perhaps. We have fitness as a motivation, perhaps. Here's another one. There's a great opportunity to be had by going out to practice. Now, what is that opportunity? Well, I don't really know. It sort of depends on what context you're in. But here's an example. Maybe you're a 3.5 player and your friend is a 3.5 player as well, and you know that they're kind of hungry to get to be 4.0. Maybe they don't want to put in the work, but you know what I mean. They want to get better, sort of. So what you do is you set up your practice session for either just before or kind of at the same time as when the 4.0 players play. And you try to get it on an adjacent court or the court that they're going to be coming on right afterwards. And so maybe that creates an opportunity, because now you can say to your friend, hey, why don't we go out and practice at 8:30 in the morning, because at 9:30, that's when the really strong players come. And so maybe there's going to be this opportunity, if we happen to be there as they're arriving, maybe then we can join them. Or, hey, why don't we practice at the same time that those 4.0 players are out there? Because then they can see us, they can see how great we are, they can see how much we're improving or how dedicated we are, whatever it might be, right? You can sort of couch this idea that coming out to practice isn't just about getting better or isn't just about getting more fit, but is actually creating an opportunity that might lead to something else that person's interested in. One of the problems we established that might be holding people back from practicing is that there's no time allocated specifically for training. I gave the example of drop-in play being sort of the norm, and if anyone was out there during drop-in play, not drop-in playing, but instead practicing, it might look kind of strange and people might get upset and kind of come in and try to take their court or play with them or whatever it is. So what do you do? Well, there's a couple of options. One of them is that you just have to hustle more. You have to find some time or find some places that you can go out and just train, that you're not going to be disturbed. So maybe it means going early in the morning. Maybe it means going late at night. Maybe it means going in the middle of the afternoon when it's really hot out and no one else wants to play anyway. So you might have to work a little bit to allocate those times, to find those times when you can come out and practice with your friend. I guess the other thing you could do is you could go advocate for more courts or more time to be created that isn't just about playing pickleball, but also about practicing pickleball. A third reason why sometimes people don't want to practice is they think it's not fun. Well, if practicing isn't fun, then you're not practicing the right way. And sure, practice doesn't always mean ha ha ha, like that kind of fun, but it can be really fun and satisfying and rewarding to go out and put in effort. And just because you're practicing doesn't mean you have to be killing yourself, right? You could practice certain drills or practice certain skills or play certain games. Sometimes they can be cooperative, sometimes they can be competitive. We've got a whole bunch of them right here. Anyway, I'm just saying, practice doesn't have to be boring. It could be as fun, as exciting, as interesting as you make it. All right, we identified some of the problems. I offered some solutions, but let me give you a couple more life hacks when it comes to convincing people to come out and practice with you. The first is, don't call it practicing. Practicing sounds boring, practicing sounds scary, practicing sounds kind of dry, practicing does not sound very fun. So how about instead of calling it practicing, you call it training? Or if that's too scary for whoever, how about you call it hitting balls? By the way, this is something you'll hear the pros say to each other all the time, like, hey, you want to go hit some balls sometime, right? And really that means is, yeah, it could include playing games, but hitting balls is different than playing the game of pickleball. So call it hitting balls. Say to your friend, hey, do you want to go hit some balls sometime? Maybe we'll train for a little bit, maybe we'll hit some balls for a bit and then play a game, right? And so if you call it hitting balls or if you call it training, maybe it stirs up some different connotations inside their head instead of practicing, which sounds really boring. My second suggestion to you is that you open up your list of players. Find some other people that you might want to practice with. If you've tried all these tricks on people and they're still not interested in doing it, well, maybe you're sort of hanging around with the wrong pickleball friends, at least the pickleball friends that you want to practice with. So consider opening it up, consider reaching out, find them online, talk to other people. They don't always have to be the same level as you. They could be a slightly lower level and you can just kind of modify the activities you do so you're still getting great practice and they're getting the practice they need too. So by expanding your circle of acquaintances, of people who might play pickleball with you, you're going to expand your circle of people who might practice with you as well. And that's going to make it more likely you can find someone to go out and hit some balls with. And finally, my life hack for getting people to get on the court and do some practice, do some training, do some drills with you is to bribe them. Make it worth their while. And sure, it could be money. I mean, that's how it works with coaches, right? You give them money in exchange for doing some stuff on the court with you that you want to do, but it doesn't have to be a coach. It could be just a stronger player. It could be someone else. And that bribe doesn't always have to be money, although money does work pretty well. It could be, hey, why don't we go out and hit some balls together, and you know what? I'll buy you lunch afterwards. Hey, why don't we go and do some training together? And you know what? I need the extra workout after. I'll come and cut your grass when we get home, or whatever it might be. find a way, if all the other solutions are not really working for you, find a way to create an incentive to make it worth their while. And I'm pretty sure you'll find someone who's going to bite.